All right, let's talk NFL draft. Pre-draft visits are over. They brought in 27, 26 guys, somewhere around there for their top 30 visits. They had 3 big names that they canceled or did cancel throughout this course. DeJuan Jones, who has been probably the top of their list on many people's draft boards for a long time. Gervon Dexter, which you did a prediction a couple of weeks ago saying that him or Keanu Benton will definitely end up a Pittsburgh Steeler. It's looking more a little bit like Keanu Benton at this point. And then Keely Ringo, who was probably the most surprising name on that list to not come in for a pre-draft visit after everything that they've done with him. On the opposite end of that, you bring in Darnell Washington, Brian Brzee, and Broderick Jones, which are 3 huge names, but also bring a lot of questions with them and the interest level and where they could find them as well. Let's start with the guys that did not come in. You've seen the reports about Jones saying that the Steelers were upset with him at his pro day because he didn't do anything. Now everybody's talking about him sliding down the board. Do you look at the Steelers and say, well, maybe this isn't the option for him? Maybe this isn't the guy at 17 or 32 that we thought he was, and maybe the Steelers are over it.
Yeah, I mean, who really knows, right? It's all
Yeah.
speculation. I mean, with Jones though, I mean they've spent a ton of time on him. I mean, they've still spent a ton of time on him, just from the Senior Bowl to the Combine to the Pro Day. Like, this is still a guy that they're really familiar with, and I want to also say, like, with the top 30s, like, I've seen this happen before where prospects have said that, top 30 visits can get canceled for any particular reason. I mean, I know of a draft prospect last year that had a top 30 visit get canceled because of weather. Like, he couldn't get out of the airport that he was in, and then he had other visits the next day. So, like, sometimes it's like a scheduling thing. It's not necessarily saying like the team, like, didn't bring them in. Like, there's a bunch of factors there that can go into that decision making, or those things taking place. So as far as Jones, I think they've seen enough of him. Keely Ringo, another guy that they've spent a lot of time on, maybe not as much as Jones, but formal visit at the Combine. They were at his pro day as well, so they're pretty familiar with him. Some of the names that they did end up bringing in, I thought were interesting. Darnell Wright, I was at his podium at the Combine. He was basically saying that, he met formally with 20 something teams, and we couldn't get him to say like which teams he met with. But I thought it was interesting that he had a top 30 after Andy Whittle was at, I believe Andy Whittle was at his pro day. So he's definitely, like, probably, I think, in the mix there at 17. So, I mean, some of the names that ended up getting brought in were definitely interesting ones for sure, like Darnell Wright, Darnell Washington.
Washington. You thinking Darnell
names.
Washington's a real thing here?
I don't know. So I did a video with Nick Faribault from Steelers Now on Sunday, and he brought up this possibility, and it was something that I've thought about, and I think we probably talked about too, but of drafting Washington in the second round, and then having basically Freiermuth just just be a move type big slot, and he could give you an upgrade as a blocking tight end. So I think it's an interesting thing. I've said multiple times that Washington is one of the highest floor players in this class. Like, I don't see how he just completely busts, because tight ends with his size, even though he can improve on his technique, like his actual hand placement with blocking, he's just so freaking big, so strong, and so athletic that he's going to be a weapon. Like, he's going to be a good blocker at the next level. He already is. So I think, getting him in a room, like, even if he's a Mercedes Lewis, Martellus Bennett type player, he's still going to be really valuable, even if he never is. Like, I personally, after watching Washington a lot last season, I don't think Washington's ever going to be anything more than, like, probably a fourth option on a team. Like, I don't see
receiving
him ever
option.
I don't ever see him being like a primary passing option. But, like, when you can do some of the things that he can do as a blocker, and you can put him on the field and you can dictate personnel anytime you want, I think that's still pretty valuable. So a couple interesting names for sure with the pre-draft visits, the later guys that we were able to, kind of catch wind of.
Yeah, I think what Washington's interesting to me because I agree with you. I also don't know, you know, Zach Gentry is here. I don't know how solidified his roster spot is. I think Connor Hayward's going to end up playing fullback slash like slot slash halfback this season. Like, I don't think he's a tight end. I don't think he's like, you can't line Connor Hayward up at a tight end against, Myles Garrett and say, hey, chip this guy. That's not going to work. He's not going to chip him. You might as well put me out there to chip this guy. I could see them bringing in another tight end and saying, hey, now we have two tight ends that we've been looking for. I don't know how that complicates things with Freiermuth, but just like you said, you bounce him out to the slot, you use him as just a receiver. I think it could work. Brzee is an interesting name. Broderick Jones is an interesting name. You don't take we talked Jones not showing up. Ringo also reportedly not coming in here. That one has less to it because there's not like the reports about, oh, well, he didn't measure at his pro day. They're upset with that one. They still took him out to dinner. But with everything that's come out, Ringo, I think, is interesting right now because Tyreek Stevenson's gaining some speed. Ike Taylor, made that. I don't know if you saw that clip where he was just like, second round pick. And I was just like, oh, okay, what does he know that we don't know?
I think he said a third or fourth round pick, and he said,
yeah. He goes, they lying,
dude. That's
they
my
lying.
guy, man. I love Ike.
Do you think that changes it? Like, do you think that the outlook at corner has changed for you at least at all in these last week or two?
No, I mean, I think the corner class, it's got depth, it's got options for them up at the top.
Yeah.
I would be a proponent of them finding a way to double dip. I like the class.
Okay. Let me ask you this because
Yeah.
we have talked about that so much, and I thought about it in my mock yesterday because I had them going corner, I had them going Deonte Banks at 17. But I was like that. I just feel confident that they're going to take a corner at 32 or 49. Is that is that out of the realm of possibilities here in your head?
I don't know that. I don't think that they. Well, I mean, I don't think it's impossible, but I doubt they would do it that close together. But when I say
Yeah.
double dip, like taking one at 17 and 32, and then taking one in the third or fourth round, or
Yeah.
even if it's a one of those seventh round flyers,
Mm-hmm.
I would be a proponent of that, 100%. Just because I like the depth of the class, and I think it's it's probably the strongest position group in the 2023 NFL draft. So, and the Steelers, if you just look at the roster, Patrick Peterson probably only going to be here this year.
Yeah.
Levi Wallace, last year of his deal.
Wait, no. I thought Peterson was 2 years. Isn't it 2 years? And he said he wants to play those 2 years.
We'll see if he gets
We'll
there.
see if he could. Yeah. 35 years old for a corner.
Yeah. Levi Wallace, last year of his deal. Arthur Millette, last year of his deal. There's not anything in the pipeline for the future. And if you get a chance, in a draft like this, that could potentially push guys down the board that may go a little higher in some other classes, whatever. I think it's a good idea to at least explore the possibility if the board falls the right way. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely still think, Ringo's probably in the mix. I think it's really interesting because I think you can make the argument that corner and tackle are probably going to be the two positions that most people talk about the most.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be options at both positions, even at 32. So, it's not like if you get one at 17, you're not going to be able to get the other. There's guys that I wrote about this yesterday. There's guys at tackle that I like at if they could get Anton Harrison at 32,
Yeah.
or I would be 100% on board with that. Or if you were able to get DeJuan Jones in the second round as well, those are all fine options, and it still allows you to get that corner that you really want at 17, whether that's Joey Porter Jr. or Deonte Banks or whatever. But they're gonna have options there. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, it definitely is interesting to see how it plays out. The you brought up that's a good one. How long before that tackle class fades into nothing? Because the tackle class is definitely weaker than usually.
Yeah, no, I brought this up the other day. I think this tackle class is getting overrated, and I really do believe that. I like Paris Johnson. He's my OT1. The way I had it ranked out was Johnson, Darnell Wright.
Darnell Wright was 2
Yeah.
over Skoronski.
No, I have Skronsky as a guard.
Oh, okay,
Skronsky's a
okay,
guard
okay,
for me.
okay.
But Paris Johnson, Darnell Wright, Broderick Jones, Anton Harrison was, I think, my top 4. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I am getting the vibe that the NFL doesn't like this tackle class as much as like the mainstream media does. Like it
Yeah.
seems like, so I think that the positions to kind of watch: Chicago at 9,
Mhm.
and then Tennessee. Like, and you can never really count out Philly too, right? Like Philly, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if they go like a first 2 rounds without taking a defensive lineman or offensive lineman, you're freaking shocked. So
Yeah.
they could take a guy like Skoronski, or they could even take a guy, um, a tackle or something like that, just for Lane Johnson down the road whenever he retires. I don't know what they could do, but I definitely think if one of Chicago and or Tennessee doesn't take a tackle, I think there's a pretty good chance that like Broderick Jones, Paris Johnson, Darnell Wright, like 1 to 2 of those guys are going to be available to them at 17. It's just a matter of like, do they want to pull the trigger?
So Broderick Jones is interesting because there's been a lot of mocks that bring him up to the Steelers and they say like,
Mhm.
oh, this guy is phenomenal, blah, 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 blah. Then you see the remarks of he struggles in pass protection. What have you watched enough film to get a read on this guy? Do you have thoughts on him?
Yeah, I've watched a good amount of them. Here's the thing with Jones that is concerning to me personally.
Yeah.
I think when you look at his athletic traits, the dude's athletic as all get out. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
he's powerful. He has really good movement. He plays nasty. He's an excellent run blocker. He's a guy who can pull. He can get to the second level, whatever you need him to do right there. When we're just talking about like him pass protecting against like wide nines at the next level, I think he's going to get absolutely torched early in his career. But here's the deal: he's only 20 years old, and like the tools are there for him to become like a top 10 tackle one day. I personally am of the belief that he's a year away, though. So like he's
Yeah.
not a guy. He is not a guy that I would want playing for me as a rookie, and that's just. I think that's why that's to me where like I think I kind of vary from like a lot of the fan base or maybe other like draft people too. I really don't know. Where like I really don't see a lot of plug and play offensive linemen in this class.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple, and like like I said, I really like Broderick Jones if you're gonna take him with the idea that like we're gonna bring this guy along slowly, but like his hands are an absolute mess. I think that like his footwork and his pass sets could use some work too. Like this was the thing that concerned me about Jones too. Like I'm a big matchups guy. I talk about this all like every episode with the draft pod, but I'm a big matchups guy. So like I look for film on matchups against other NFL draft prospects
Yeah.
heavy because I want to see you go up against the top competition. BJ Ojolari was absolutely cooking Broderick Jones last year. Like they had to like BJ had like a 5-play stretch, I think, where he had 3 pressures and 2 quarterback hits. And then
Oh,
Georgia was like, it seemed like Georgia and Ty Monken was like, oh, we need to get the ball out of Stetson Bennett's hand because we don't think we can block this dude. And then I watched him go up against Isaiah McGuire from Missouri, and McGuire was getting into his chest and driving him back in pass pro too. So I'm like, okay,
damn.
those are the 2 probably best pass rushers that you're gonna play. 2 of the 3, 4 best guys that you're gonna play in the season. Like if those guys are getting the better of you, that's a little concerning to me because like
Yeah.
I like BJ Ojolari. I have like I think I have like a late or early second round grade on him or something like that. So like he was a guy that I really liked, but like how many of the edge rushers next season as a rookie is he going to play that's better than BJ Ojolari is right now?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of them.
A lot.
So
All of them. We could
yeah,
say every one of them.
it's gonna be difficult. So that's the thing with Jones. I worry that he's gonna go to a team that's gonna ask him to come in and play as a rookie. And then I
Yeah.
think, the fan base is gonna do this thing that they always do where they get really impatient and a guy struggles as a rookie and the fans get down on him. Maybe the guy loses confidence. You just never know. But like he's only 20 years old. Like I think he's 21 years old. Like he's a really young kid still.
Yeah.
So I think he has a good amount of upside. He scares me a little bit if you're asking him to come in and play from day one.
That's my worry in Pittsburgh is there's going to be some expectation that he'll start, at least from the fan base. And then if we're being honest, just selfishly, I don't want to have to deal with that. I don't want to have to be the guy that explains why Dan Moore is starting again over the rookie that you took in the first round. Like I'm not into that life. Anton Harrison is the other guy that I think was very interesting that came out of that list. Number 4, you had him. What's his development? Because I talked to people who are close to him and his cycle at Oklahoma, and they've said that like this guy could be day one capable if you need him to be. He could also be a developmental piece, but like it was very much so mixed reviews from these people.
Yeah, I like Harrison a good amount. I think he is probably in a similar like tier in terms of like upside as Broderick is. I think Broderick's a little more impactful as a run blocker than Harrison, but
Yeah.
Harrison I think has some underrated play strength just in terms of what people are giving him credit for right now too. But I really like Harrison's footwork. He's a guy that I think has really good hands in pass protection. The thing with Harrison, I think that's going to be interesting is one of the biggest kind of concerns or question marks you have about his game is he played in that RPO heavy
Yep.
system at Oklahoma. There's just not like you'll watch him and he'll go like 10 straight snaps without really having to drop back in a true drop back like
Yeah.
vertical or a 45 set. Like he's literally they're just play action, they move the pocket, it's RPO heavy. Like he's not going up against like wide nines where he's just having a like vertical set 25 30 times a game, which is probably more so realistic of what he's going to be asked to do at the next level. So playing more wide nine rushers and then having some more experience, just putting more reps on tape of him, like being able to, true drop back sets is a question mark for him. But he's another guy, really young, really athletic. I think he's got underrated play strength. Love the way he uses his hands in pass pro, independent hands. He'll switch up his techniques and his sets. I just think there's a little more cloudy of a immediate translation just because we haven't seen him do some of the stuff he'll be asked to do as a rookie.